I'd like to call this meeting of the informational meeting to order, and this is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2013. We do have an interesting schedule here amongst us. We're going to see during presentations, we do have the monthly Event Center project update by the administration, but that being said, the first item on the agenda is an update on the Land Use Committee. Rex?
Yeah. Let me get turned on here. We had an interesting meeting talking a little bit about TIFs last year, incremental financing, and an update by Brent O'Neill and Darren Smith. Darren talked a little bit about some changes that they're looking at enacting and bringing before this group, and some of those changes were key ways to improve, looking at providing better communications, adding some clarity to the process for the staff, officials, and the private sector, and then formalizing an application process, which is probably the major thing that they're looking at, which we thought was a good idea. Then Brent talked about several of those key components. They want to increase the process a little bit so it has a little bit more time to simmer, if you will, or talk some more communication between the private sector and the people of Sioux Falls, and also the some of us that have to make those decisions. So they're looking at a formal application process. There would be a fee that would be accompanied by that to help cover some of the costs of the TIF. We thought that was probably a good idea, and however, we were looking at it also and looked like some of those process, if you will, were elongated a little bit more than maybe needed to be done. So we suggested maybe shortening up some of those. Gave them a couple of ideas on that, and they're gonna bring it back to us next month, and then hopefully bring it to the council so that we can have a nice, concise process put together, application process, et cetera. So when they are brought to us, we know that everybody's gone through the same thing, and it should be a good process from now on.
Good, thank you.
Okay, and then last one was the deer feeding. I don't want to call it problem, but discussion. We had Arden Peterson in he's the regional supervisor for the Game Fish and Parks, and we talked a little bit about some of the perceived problems that we may have with the deer population in Sioux Falls. That I know Councilor Staggers asked about if we really did have a problem, and when we got down to it, we kind of decided that we didn't. I know there is a law prohibiting salt licks and anything that you do to bring deer into a hunting situation. And so along with that, and Councilor Aguilar helped us with some of the discussions she's had with some of her constituency in her district. It just doesn't appear to be a big problem, but we did decide to keep it on our radar and on kind of an annual basis, because it could develop into one if we, with where the population of the deer is, and it seems to be getting to be more and more in the southern end of Sioux Falls along the river, along with the northeast. They seem to have taken care of some of that with that hunting season that we've got up in the northeast corridor going out toward Brandon, that kind of thing. But we'll keep an eye on that, and if there is something that needs to be done, we'll take a look at it. So that's what we discussed.
Thank you, Councilor Rolfing. Thank you. I believe Councilor Anderson, you had an item to bring.
Yes, I'd like to ask Director Cotter up to the podium to ask a few questions.
Mark?
Good afternoon, Director Cotter. Today you did a press release talking about the railroad relocation. Could you give us a little update on that before the press conference?
Certainly, and really tomorrow's purpose is to do more of a Q&A session on really what does it mean to have a signed environmental assessment document. But essentially, as we've been talking for some time, is that what we were expecting the proposed alternative to come out is the one that has the most least environmental impact of all the alternatives, and is also the most straightforward that we've heard since some of the legacy ideas came forward almost 15 years ago. And it essentially it's the straight sale of the downtown yard between the City of Sioux Falls and BNSF, along with a new connection for Ellis and Eastern in the downtown from where they normally connect today, and just slightly move that over to the east. And then last, the 2 new sidings out by Rice Street and Timberline. So the concept that we've talked about for some time has been much more streamlined than any other alternatives that we've talked about. It's much cleaner, it's much safer environmentally than some of the other alternatives that we've talked about, which is a large rail yard or a bridge over the falls, things of that nature. So really my intent tomorrow is just to have Josh Peterson, our project manager there, with me, and just to answer general questions of what this means. On Monday we did run a formal notice in the paper announcing that we'll do a public meeting on August 14th. That notification in the paper actually formally starts a 45-day comment period for the public to comment on the document. So those are kind of the next 2 steps.
And if I may,
Please.
Within that negotiations, are we also including the environmental cleanup that might have to happen in that area?
As a part of the environmental assessment document, we've essentially laid out the steps that a developer would have to take if they were to put a use on a piece of land. Okay, so let me take a step back. Right now there's a subject property of purchase of about 10 acres. And we're not allowed to even start those negotiations with BNSF until we get through the public comment period. So assuming we get through the public comment period positively and we get a final environmental assessment document, then in early September we can start the appraisal process. Assuming, looking way forward, that there's a successful negotiation to purchase the land, when the city is titled to the land, there will then be discussions just like we do today with Uptown, that if a parcel of land is identified to be sold, then a developer comes in and they'll be able to look at all the records that we have, because we've taken a number of soil borings out there, and in general it's it's a lightly contaminated site. It's much cleaner than what we expected it to be when we went in initially. But essentially there's an overlay district that's in place in the downtown that if remediation's needed, say if they're going to put residential or commercial use, they have to follow those guidelines of the DENR to appropriately clean that up. If a portion of it is a parking lot and the DNR says that's an appropriate use to cap that area, then they don't have to clean that up. So does that help?
That does. And one more.
One more question, please.
Also, does this area fall under any of the TIFs that we've given for downtown or in that area?
I don't believe it does today, because we would not have TIF'd any railroad property, to my knowledge. I think it certainly could be a candidate in the future, just with the nature of developing downtown and some of the challenges that come. But I think that certainly would come before you later.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Director Cotter?
That's right. The mayor wanted me to also add is that assuming we have a successful negotiation, one of the key requirements in the MOU is that they would be able to utilize that switch land for 2 additional years while they make their operational changes. Then, as a part of the project cost, the rails would be removed, the ties would be removed. We would excavate about 6 inches of that mixed area, topsoil it and seed it, and then start to contemplate sales or parcels of the sales. So you're certainly welcome to attend tomorrow, 3rd floor Shrapa building at 1:30.
Thank you, Director Cotter. I also have, is there any other item in open discussion?
Yeah.
Councilor Staggers. Councilor Staggers did present the chair with a request for travel and for the amount of about $1,400. And according to our procedures manual, this comes before the council for our approval. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilor Staggers just to inform the council, and then I'll ask for a vote on this.
Yes. What I've done is I'm starting to submit paperwork to go to a conference in Washington, D.C., the latter part of October. I've been to this conference many times before. It's often held throughout different parts of the country. But it deals mostly with zoning issues, smart growth, transportation issues, and things like that. Issues that are directly related to municipal government. I've been also to other meetings before, League of Cities, their national meeting, also smaller meetings they have throughout the country. And when I compare this conference that I'm applying for, the quality is outstanding. And that's the reason I always like to try to go to these conferences every time they hold them. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or not.
What's the conference name? Who's putting it on?
It's called the American Dream Conference. And once again, the primary issues that we deal with are the transportation issues, for example, light rail, buses, things like this. This coming conference, we're going to be talking about, what is those buses from New York to Washington, D.C.? It's a bus company that is very profitable, making lots of money. I'm sorry, we're going to be dealing with that. We have different speakers also that come in. And then we also travel around the Washington, D.C. area to take a look at different projects that are going on.
Are there any other, Councilor Offenbach, please?
Who is the sponsor of this particular?
The American Dream Coalition.
And I guess I've never heard of that. Who is that?
Mm-hmm. It's on the internet. What would you like to know about it specifically?
I guess I want to know who it is. This doesn't say anything about who they are. This is just
you can take a look at this
information for
part
travel
here,
and
too.
tickets and whatever. Is this? I'm sorry. Could I ask another question, Mr.
Please.
Chair? Is this an organization that the city is a member of, like the National League of Cities or the Municipal
No, we
League?
save money by not being a member.
And are you going to take any staff with you since it's so critical to city issues?
Well, I mean, if any staff would like to come, I'd be more than happy for them to come. And also any council members that would like to go, I would highly recommend them coming too.
Any other questions? Councilor Ruffin?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to, it says here, ending gridlock, preserving the American Dream Conference. I don't know that we have a lot of gridlock here, Councilor Staggers, that we need to study on this one. I guess I'd like to get a little bit more information on this before we okay it, just from that standpoint. I don't know that the topic is exactly right for us.
Well, you know how it is with conferences. They usually come up with some general topic and then work from that, but then also work with other things. So we are going to be dealing, I think, probably quite a bit with smart growth.
Well, I think then we could come back and let us know what those are, which ones you're going to be attending and that kind of thing. Because usually I know the ones I've ever gone to, not with the city or anything, but anytime I'm required to, kind of give a preference as to what here are the things that we have, the conferences or the breakout sessions, et cetera, and I'd like to know what some of those are, so that we.
I'd like for you to come.
What?
I'd like for you to come.
Well, I may be willing to do that, but I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm willing to okay this right now, knowing that the main topic of the whole thing is gridlock in America, gridlock in.
We don't have any gridlock on 26th Street. I mean, that's part of the
we're
conference
working on
too,
that,
dealing
so,
with transportation issues too. Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying on gridlock. That appears to be, that the kind of thing that we really don't deal with much in here in Sioux Falls. So I'd rather take a look at some more information before we approve it. That's all. Not just a little bit more information so we know what's going on.
I think, Councilor Staggers, this conference again is in October, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, we do have another informational on August 6th. If you want to just give us some information at that time, I think, and then we'll ask for a vote on it at that time.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll try to get some more information, but also at the same time, when you go to conferences, many times conferences have a general outline, and then as you get closer and closer to the meeting, then we get more and more detailed. And so that's what we have right now, very general statements of what's going to happen. We also have speakers that are also listed too. And and you can get on the internet too and take a look.
Councilor Urbanbach,
Mr.
please.
Chair, I would remind the council that we cannot take a vote during informational meetings.
Right.
We'll have to make it an agenda item on a regular meeting.
And we will.
But I'm with Councilor Rolfing, I'd like more information, especially about who the organization is that is sponsoring this. I'm really getting very sketchy answers to that.
Councilor Stegers, what we've done in the past, and you weren't familiar when this council took over, we really looked at our travel policies, and we suspended all travel at the point in time because of the economic situation that was going on at the time. And the Operations Committee has been working on a new policy across the board for the City Council, including travel. But what we will do, I will put this on the informational meeting for August 6th, and we will put it on the agenda for that same meeting to vote on that.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough? Good. And then, of course, just a reminder, Council, that as we go forward in the future, we always deal with these things on an annual basis. So if there's any travel out of the ordinary, like municipal league and stuff like that, we do need those requests on an annual basis. And then we will take them up at a council meeting to approve them. So, and then we also will expect a report following a meeting, which has been this council's policy as we've gone forward to give just a brief update.
Yeah. Also, if you mind, I was curious, is there anybody that's going to go to Seattle for the National League of Cities meeting?
We have it posted, but we haven't got any, nobody has approached me with their attendance yet, other than staff. I know Jim David and Dave Bixler plan on attending.
Okay.
Councilor Urbanbach? Any other questions?
It did just go out of my head. I apologize. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Okay, is there anything else to be brought before this council in open discussion? There being nothing else at this time. Yes.
I'm sorry. Dozed off there for a second. I'm not going to be present, so just as a courtesy to the rest of the council, I will not be at Thursday's special meeting.
Thank you. And as you see, I have things scattered all over the place here, but I will give you the schedule. We do have a schedule that was sent out to us by the city clerk's office concerning the budget that's coming up and the budget hearings that we're going to have in the future, so please refer to those dates. And we are having on August 6th a special meeting from 3 to 6. We are having a budget hearing, and at that one we will have city finance, human resource, IT, police, planning and building services, and transit. August 13th, we are planning on a special meeting from 3 to 6, and the budget hearings there, we will be dealing with Parks, Zoo, Washington Pavilion, and Public Works. August 20th, the special meeting from 3 to 6, the budget hearing, we will be dealing with Fire, Library, Health, Community Development, and Public Parking. And then on August 27th at 5 o'clock, there is a joint city-county meeting and the approval for joint ventures such as the Siouxland Libraries, Metro Communications, and Siouxland Museums. So people just put those on your agendas. We have changed the schedule a little bit. We have also scheduled a couple of city council work sessions. So once the mayor makes his budget address to us on Thursday, coming up Thursday at 1:30 right here in these chambers is the budget address for the city. But on August 7th, we have scheduled a working session from 3 to 5 o'clock. And on August 14th, we've tentatively scheduled another work session. And on August 28th, another work session. So with that in mind, if there's anything that you want to bring up for those work sessions, I'll entertain those questions from you at that point in time. And just another reminder that the public hearing and first reading of the appropriations ordinance will be on September 10th at the City Council meeting then, and hopefully the adoption of the budget will take place on September 27th at the 7 o'clock City Council meeting. So that is the schedule. Any other questions? Okay, right now then, back on point here, we'll bring up our presentations, and this is the monthly Event Center project update. And who's kicking it off? Mark, please.
Thank you, Council Chair Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Thank you for the opportunity for us to come forward. It's been 60 days to give you a look back on what's taken place and also give you a chance to look forward on what's progressing on the new Event Center. Before I advance the slides, I just want you to take a keen look at the outside of the building because now we're starting to enclose the envelope, and so you'll start to see, you know, naturally where the main entrance is, where the large canopy is that'll receive all the at the main entrance. That's the main ticket counter. But you start to see all the windows, so you'll start to see areas that have been left out, if you will, to receive windows. The metal panels, that silver Graphite color, there's 2 different shades of that. That work is underway, so we'll show you some pictures of that. And then just in general, a number of site construction activities are starting to happen on the north side of the facility in preparation of all the upcoming Howard Wood events. So let's get started. All right, first is just a nice bird's eye view. It's a clear day. You can start to see that a very organized site with nearly 180 people working on site on a daily basis. We've also ventured into that area near the front of the convention center and the main entrance to not only make those necessary structural improvements, but also to start planning some of that site work with the parking lot work. And so that will start to unfold in the coming months. Okay, highlights. We did announce that we've reached the halfway point from a schedule standpoint. The project remains on schedule and on budget. We've recently awarded 2 more packages of work. One is the millwork, that's essentially the finished carpentry, as well as the wood ceiling work. There's a, with Coke Hazard Architects, they really did primarily the interior finish. And as you look at some of the old renderings, you know, we did a number of wood ceiling approach to really soften up the inside of the building. And then also the low voltage package. That's, you know, that's a lot of the data, but it's also the sound system. So those were both recently awarded. That brings us up to having awarded about 97% of the project. Essentially, the last 2 things to do is the tile, the carpet, and the signage. And so Mortensen's done a very good job working with our architects to get those packages out timely, keep us on schedule, and also keep us within budget. Upcoming significant milestone will be setting the trusses. I just want to give you a perspective. This is on the north side of the building. This is a local contractor, Carl Carlson, that is putting in the curb and gutter for that new circulation road that will go between the new event center and Howard Wood. It will be wider, certainly open up some nice circulation. That will be essentially a mirror image on the south side when we're done. But right now we're on track to complete this road in the next 3 weeks. And a lot of the sidewalk that's adjacent to Howard Wood, so when those, you'll start to hear some of those events coming up from Mike Cooper, and we'll be well on track. The other thing then we'll do is we'll actually move the fence closer to the event center so we can just open up more area for the Howard Wood events. This is if you are standing on the top of the convention center looking west toward the new event center. This is the exterior metal panel work that's going up. You know, it goes up in a fairly progressive way, and so as you start to see these crews work around the building, you start to just see more and more of it look more of a finished approach, more enclosed. The construction of the trusses, this contractor, LPR, is essentially chosen to take and build 2/3 of the truss inside the bowl. 1/3 of the truss is built outside the bowl to the north. And so this is a picture of them putting those trusses together inside. They're essentially at center ice as you look at that in the center of the bowl. Okay, this is a picture looking essentially at the main entrance, and remember when we talked about where the windows were, and then the exception will be the exterior metal panel. That blue is essentially an exterior gypsum board that will then receive a vapor barrier and then ultimately be wrapped with the metal panels. That work is just going to progressively continue around the building. Once the metal panels are on, then the windows will go in. So it's going very well, and again, Mortensen does a very good job spreading out the work so multiple trades can be working in this building at one time to, again, keep us on budget and schedule. Okay, this is a picture from inside the bowl. This is Fegan Construction is erecting the upper concourse precast. They're teamed with Gage Brothers on the erection of the precast, and so that work has gone very well. Now the steps that are, now some of the activities that are happening is they're doing some of that finish work on the precast as well as starting to build those interior steps that will take you from one level to the next. That's a good picture right in the center of the opening to the center bowl, and that's a club. There's a mirror image of clubs at center court out there that you can actually be in the club or the bar and not miss any minute of the action. Okay, showed a lot of things that are either on the outside of the building or in the center bowl where the public will essentially be the most of the time. There's also a lot of work that's happening what we call backup house. What's on this trailer is the system. It's a skid unit that actually makes the ice for the ice floor. And so this has obviously all been pre-planned. It gets in its respective area, and there's just a number of trades that are working in backup house to install the infrastructure, wire the infrastructure, plumb the infrastructure that will ultimately support this building. Here's another picture. This is in the mechanical room. If you go into another room out there, it's all the large electrical motor control room. So just a lot of backup house that's been planned and coordinated. All of these pipes, if you can imagine, every one of them, it was a requirement of the trades that they had to model all their piping runs and have someone on board that actually can draw all their pipes in 3D, so then it can go into a master model that Mortensen runs. They then run to see clash situations to see if one pipe might run into an HVAC duct. Essentially, they want to model where all these pipes are going to go before it goes to the field, so they just don't have any interruptions in schedule. It's gone extremely well. It was a stretch for some local companies to gear up for that, but they've all geared up for it. And then in the end, we've just heard very positive comments. Fegan Construction, for example, it was one of the first times that they'd used it, but they actually found ways to use the BIM model to be more efficient as they're erecting their precast. So it's gone very well, and again, I think it's just taken the project team to the next level, having everything modeled first before it's installed. I want to just give you an update on what aspects have been allocated at this point for an enhanced fan experience. Upgraded seating, sports weave. We've talked in the past that the lower bowl will all be a nice padded seat, but we also went the next step as we toured several event centers. The ones that had a sports weave fabric, they are certainly much more durable, but they're also much easier to clean. The Design Elements team has actually selected the fabric, and so we have a finished seat for you to sit in right behind me, so don't leave today without sitting in the seat. There'll be a range of seats from 19 up to 22 inches throughout this facility to sit in. Those are very nice. It's a high-quality seat made by Hussey. And then secondly, enhanced sound system. We talked about a very good digital system, also a very good sound system to have to really make the experience memorable. And so we are also exploring options to further enhance our sound system. And then my last slide, I just want to give you again a picture on plan view of what we're working on for the site. Ultimately, our goal is to complete the yellow, the purple, the blue, and the orange in 2013. Here in the next 3 weeks, we'll have the yellow area and the purple area complete, and then we'll start to move toward the main entrance, and we'll start to work on that orange area. There is a number of events to coordinate. We thought it was important if we could push a little bit on the schedule to do more site work in 2013 than we originally planned. We'll just have the entire complex in a better position as we start 2014. We're now getting good weather, we're getting good productivity, and so just wanted to give you a look forward. The yellow will be done so it can support all the Howard Wood events along with the purple. Then the fence will get moved tighter to the event center on the north side, and then the site work crews will start to work on the orange and then ultimately blend into the blue. Now I'd like to bring forward Mike Cooper to talk to you about parking coordination.
Good afternoon, Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. I just want to start out by commenting that last Friday we had an opportunity to provide a tour of the event center with a chamber-sponsored group of state legislators, and it was really interesting to to watch them and hear their comments as they walk through the project construction site. Very, very positive, very impressed with the progress that we've made, very impressed with Mortensen Construction, the professionalism of just coordinating all the worker bees that were going all over the place. And so it was fun to watch people from outside of Sioux Falls come in and just observe the great progress that we are making. So with that, let's talk again about event parking coordination. We've gone through one fall of construction and one winter of construction, and we've been very successful during both of those seasons of being able to coordinate our major events around the construction area. We've already begun having meetings now about upcoming fall events, primarily that will be happening at Howard Wood Field. The first one that we're talking about that will be coming up is the President's Bowl, which is scheduled for September 7th. And again, that will be a doubleheader football game. Starting at 4 o'clock will be O'Gorman versus Lincoln. And then at 7 o'clock will be Roosevelt versus Washington. At this time, we're not anticipating any other major conflicting events during that afternoon evening session. One of the changes that we're hearing from President's Bowl this year is that they will probably not do the fairground shuttle like they tried last year. I think it was a good experiment, and I think there's an opportunity that in the future we can continue to use the fairgrounds for off-site parking, but they just felt that with the cost versus the usage, it wasn't really justified this year. But they are going to be looking at the potential of some parking assistance over at McCart Field. So that's still a discussion that we're having with the President's Bowl Committee. The next major event on Sunday will be the marathons on the 8th of September. And again, that really works out well because it is a Sunday and there's not any other major events going on. But we will be closing Western Avenue, and that's where they're going to be leaving Howard Wood Field, much like we did last year. The Sioux Falls Sports Authority is the one that's coordinating that event. Next, we have Dakota Bowl, scheduled for September 14th, and that will be Washington High versus O'Gorman at 8 o'clock p.m. And also, we are not anticipating any other conflicting events for this particular fall. So that really helps us out when we hear Mark show you, or when we see Mark's exhibit of some of the parking lot construction that we'll be dealing with this fall. There's going to be some additional disruptions, but we believe that we're going to be able to overcome those because of the proactive meetings that we're doing with the different organizations that are sponsoring these upcoming events. And the Dakota Bowl will be the same way. We're going to be able to use a lot of that off-site parking like we did last year. And then finally on October 5th will be the Festival of Bands, which is pretty much an all-day event that starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. We do have some challenges that day. There's going to be a wedding reception at the convention center later in the day, and then there's a possibility of a stampede game in the evening. We're still trying to verify if that's going to happen or not. But you know, last year we went through the Festival of Bands with some other concurrent events, and I think it worked out well. We're going to be using one lane on Western Avenue for the bands to march, and again, by coordinating with Public Works, with some signage, with police to help us with traffic control, with the sponsoring events with their volunteers, I think we've made it clear that we can be very successful with these big events in terms of parking, working around the construction, and we expect that to happen again this fall for these big events. So we're having another coordination meeting in August, and we believe that we're going to be in good shape for the first big event, which will be the September 7th timeframe. So that's a very quick overview of what's happening with parking. And then next up, we decided that we would give you somebody that maybe could be a little more exciting in terms of sponsorships, because Darren is not here today, Darren Smith. So we've got Kendra Simmonsma here today to go over the next session for you, which will be on sponsorship updates. And so we're looking forward to that. And hopefully you are too. There you go.
Hello, thank you, Mike. So Darren is unavailable today, so I get to fill in for him. Kendra Simmonsma, the Special Projects Manager, obviously the Event Center Project Manager. I'm going to give you a brief update on the sponsorships and how is it going. And Legend Sales and Marketing is here as well to provide any additional details at the end of our presentation. So the important thing with sponsorships is that it's very different from premium seating. It's different from the suite sales. It's very different from the loge sales. And sponsorships is all about making sure that we deliver tremendous value to whoever is going to be a sponsor in the new Denny Sanford Premier Center. And so in order to do that, Legends has been spending time really walking through and listening to SMG and the Event Center project team on the available inventory and assets in the new building. And by doing that, they determine a fair market value price, develop their sales presentation, their information, and then they really start to work on initiating pipeline of prospects. And so Legends has been doing that over the past couple of months, and as all of you are aware, we initially had a press conference earlier this month to announce to the public that this process has started. So what I want to really focus on with this update today is to talk about the importance of how different sponsorship sales will be than what we've had so far. Sponsorship sales, every deal is very different. Every deal is customized and individual. So where we had the same fixed price for the suites, for the same type of suites, same fixed price for the loge, that'll be very different here with sponsorships. And the other unique thing about sponsorships is that they really don't ever sell out. We will open our building with more opportunities, and it's very normal and very common. And the other big difference is that there are signature partners, founding partners. There's a platform that Legends has developed that's very common in the sports industry for signature partner sponsors, and that's what the focus is right now that Legends is working on. We, the city, call it signature partners. You may have heard other buildings and their founding partners or another name like that. We really like the signature partner name. So what's going on right now with signature partner opportunities is that Legends is having many, many meetings and talking about all the different opportunities that would be available to be a signature partner. And what those really boil down to is iconic landmarks in the Denny Sanford Premier Center, also permanent signage, and then all the inventory that we have now with the LED signage package that we have. And remember, we have the ribbon board, we have those 2 video end boards, and we have the center hung scoreboard. And all of that opens up a bevy of LED inventory that will be part of signature package. And then finally, another component of this signature partner platform is their product or service integration. So when you're talking with a sponsor, a potential sponsor, you do talk about integrating their service or their product as part of the sponsorship. What we hope to see from Legends is, and what we've been giving an update on, is that we expect to see the first signature partner being announced within the next 1 to 3 months, and so we're really excited about that. Again, this is a very different approach. There's lots of meetings, lots of discussions, lots of back and forth, and so we really are excited to be able to come to the public with the first inked sponsorship deal, and we hope to see that hopefully by the next time we are standing here in front of you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Turbach for our financial update.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Kendra. The discussion about the sponsorship sales, from my perspective, is very exciting. You'll remember that a key part of the financial plan for the project was to put not only the sponsorship sales revenues into the operating budget, but a number of the other things that you see on the slide now, the revenues generated from sponsorships, naming rights, premium seating opportunities will all be channeled into the operational budget for the facility to help us consistently operate the facility in the black from year to year. And we're looking forward as some of those sponsorship agreements are made over the next year or so to fill in some of the blanks that you see here on the screen in terms of the anticipated revenue from sponsorships. But a lot of work has been done already, as you folks know. Darren gave a pretty good update last time, 2 months ago, on the suite sales and the loge box sales. We've put some dollars to those. Those are annual figures that will be derived from those contracts, from those opportunities that will go into the operating budget. So you can see we've already essentially locked in about $1.8 million of revenue that will go into the operating account for the facility. So we feel really good about that, and have certainly high hopes and are looking forward to Legends really putting some more money in our bank, so to speak, as those sponsorship sales occur. In terms of the project, overall project budget and picture, of course, the funding sources have not changed. We don't anticipate seeing any change in the funding sources from what you've seen for many months now. On the expenditure side of the equation, as you would expect, and given the stage of the project that we're at today, the construction activity is taking a big bite each and every month out of the construction budget. And so you can see that since April, we've spent a little over $11 million on construction. So just in that 2-month time frame, the spend on construction is well over $1 million per week. At this point, with almost $36 million expended out of the $117 million budget, that's about a little over 30% of the total project budget has been expended. And as Mark indicated, we are very much on schedule and very much on track with the budget. So not many other changes in terms of the expenditures. As I say, the construction is really the key activity there. With that, we will be back in a couple months for our next update, but I know the entire team will stand by to answer any questions you folks have today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Are there any questions for the administration team on the Event Center? Greg, Councilor Jameson, please.
Maybe not so much a question, but I think it's worth noting that the fact that they're on time and on budget should be celebrated, because in a big project like this, like with a lot of them in the cities ahead, you can become aware of the problems, like there isn't enough money to build escalators into the building or something like that. All of a sudden they start to creep up, and I think it's worth noting that on time and on budget is a good thing. And it's our role here to supervise some of that. It's just worth noting publicly that that's good. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions for the administration? I do believe we have an invitation, the council does, for a tour. Kendra, can you remind us when that recommended tour date is, please?
Yes, thank you. We, of course, would have every opportunity when you guys would like to come out, but we have organized, I've worked with Jim David, organized Friday, August 2nd at, I believe it's 1:30, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
So we would welcome an opportunity to have you guys actually come out with hard hats and actually walk the site.
Thank you, Kendra. Are there any other questions? I just want to remind the council that, again, of tomorrow at 1:30, the rail yard redevelopment Q&A press session takes place, and that's in the Sharapa Place up on 3rd floor. Also on Thursday, just a reminder, and for the public also, that at 1:30 on Thursday afternoon right here in these chambers, we do have the mayor's budget address. And of course, the tour of the event center coming up, which I'm looking forward to. And by the way, if you want a hard hat that says, you know, a specific motorcycle on it, let me know. I do have hard hats with one specific name on it, so I can help you out. Anyway, with that being said, is there any other business to come before this council? There being none, just a reminder that we do have a joint Minnehaha County meeting here at 5 o'clock. And we'll see you back shortly. This meeting is adjourned.